It's my great pleasure and honor to introduce Vish. He's the co-founder and CTO of Glean. How many of you have not used Glean? Oh, you are missing out on a lot in your life. I mean, you should. So again, I mean, Glean is obviously the most important product. I mean, I remember how Glean changed my life a few years ago. Like I always used to wonder why don't we have something like Google on the enterprise? Like, why do you have to struggle every day? And Glean was the answer to that. And since then, my life has changed. Like both when I was at Pinterest a few years ago and now at LinkedIn, like I cannot live without Glean. So thank you for building such an amazing product, which
Oh, you made my day and week.
yeah, yeah, of
This
course,
is
of
this is
course.
what excites me every day.
Right, right. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, so maybe we can start a bit with the origin of Glean. Like, curious to know, like, how did you start Glean? Like, was it more serendipity, or and maybe if we can hear something that we don't get from Chat GPT, that would be that would be nice.
Yeah, I think it's a sort of Glean was brewing in the mind of Arvind, who's the CEO. Previously, he was co-founder at Rubrik, and he ran engineering and IT there.
Mhm.
And Rubrik was very successful, one of the most successful like enterprise companies of the 2010s,
Mhm.
growing very fast. And like every company, you'd have these annual periodic surveys, pulse surveys around how can the team work better.
Mhm.
And the number one thing that kept coming up is it's just hard to find information. And I think the thing there was he tried to solve it for Rubrik by buying a solution and found none of the solutions
Mhm.
actually worked. And then on the other side, like myself and uh, Sahil, who's here in the audience, who's like an early member of the team, like um, we were at Facebook,
Mhm.
and there was this internal search, that was made available
Uh-huh.
that indexed all the content, like the homegrown tools that Facebook has. And one was we could see the value of it, and also we could see that some of the best engineers in the company were working on it, so it was
Mhm.
a priority. So that was sort of the origin. Like, how can we build, as you said, a Google-like
Yes.
experience
Yes.
for everyone who's doing knowledge work?
Yes.
And that's how we started the company.
Makes sense. I mean, I still remember 2016. We had a similar discussion when I was at LinkedIn, right? Like, I still remember there was a big meeting and we were all looking for solution and the same story, right? Like, looked at so many different solutions, nothing came even close, right? So seemed like it was a problem that was waiting to be solved. And
Right, exactly.
I'm so glad
Yeah.
we went ahead and
Yeah.
solved it.
Although at that time, if you said you wanted to solve enterprise search, the VCs would run away
Yeah,
because it's a graveyard.
that's right. So I mean, coming back to your career, like, I mean, you of course worked at Microsoft and Meta, Facebook. Well, back then it was called Facebook, but okay, Meta. So, like, how was your transition to this journey, right? Like, was it just natural, or do you have
Yeah.
to think about it? I'm asking this question because a lot of people in the audience might be in the same boat, so they might benefit hearing from you.
Yeah, so I think way back I started my career in 2000, and I spent a year at Oracle working on the database server,
Hmm.
and at that time that was like the AI days of today. There was like the internet boom,
Hmm.
and so I joined a startup that was sort of trying to build very very scalable storage
Hmm.
systems using commodity hardware.
Hmm.
And so that was actually one of the most fun experiences of my working life, because like there was like a bunch of us who were like relatively new in our careers, working with some of the senior people from Sun and SGI, all the systems companies of those days, and building something very interesting. So that was like a so I had the startup bug then.
Okay, okay, got it.
And then, was at Microsoft. I had a great time at Facebook, but it was close to 10 years. And I was thinking about what's next. Like, how do I like sort of 10x my growth? And that was how. But everything has to line up, right? The
Yeah,
problem has
yes,
to
of
be good.
course,
You
of
have to be
course.
working with very trustworthy people.
Yep.
All of those things luckily lined up with Glean.
Yeah, so I think the moral of the story is if you have a bug and you keep it alive, wait for the stars to align. It will align, but like don't let it die, right? I mean, that's the
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So I think switching a little bit like too early when you're building the product early on. Again, this is also something that I'm sure a lot of founders would benefit from hearing. Like, were there some like product principles that you all had created, or like some early? Do you believe, like looking back now, like
Yeah.
retrospect, like were there some principles or some early technical decisions that you made that you believe were kind of fundamental or foundational to the success of Glean later on?
Yeah, I think in terms of product principles, one of the a couple of interesting like product principles where one is it has to be turnkey and sort of auto tuning. A lot of times, the attitude was to build platforms, whether it was like the big hyperscalers or smaller companies and have knobs for like ranking and so on. Part of it is because it's such a hard problem.
Yes.
Like enterprise is messy, and so building an auto tuning solution that works for various workloads is quite hard.
Yes.
So that's one. The other thing we really struggled with, we still continue to like, debate is the PLG or non-PLG route. And we felt we couldn't provide a great experience without, without actually the company connecting all their systems and having a full view of the
Right.
organization. So that those were two important product principles. Technically, a big thing was, how do we bet on natively indexing the content
Right.
to provide like the the speed and the relevance that's possible versus like, federating out to the data sources. And it's a huge lift,
Right.
but I think that was like a very big difference in why Glean works well.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I think I can see that, and obviously, so maybe I'll take the discussion in different directions. So now that you have solved search, well, again, I don't know whether you have solved or not. So some say there are some people who say search is a solved problem. Like, and that was the case even before you started the company, I guess. Oh, well, why are you working on search? Search is a solved problem. You said like it's the deathbed. If you went to the VC and said, I'm going to do enterprise search. So like tell us like why is enterprise search so different from consumer search, right? Like I'm sure there is something that is very different from
Yeah.
what you do in traditional search.
I think there are few things that make enterprise search hard. One is just the whole messiness of the, heterogeneity,
Yes, yes.
right? You have various kinds of applications, right? And how they are used is very different. But at the same time, the same application can be used in very different ways across different companies. That's one. The second thing is the amount of, it's a problem of small data. So you can't really throw your ML algorithms on like a huge data set.
Right, right.
So you have to, data isolation is really important. Like you cannot just go and inspect customer data. You have to be very careful about how you inspect the data. So that requires a very different mindset than building web search. The third part here is all around governance and permissions.
Right, right.
That's a huge aspect of like, being able to provide a solution that actually works and companies can trust.
Yeah, I think the last point resonates quite a bit. Like it's very, very different from how webs, and obviously the first two make a lot of sense, but the last point is really very,
Yeah,
very different compared to what
yeah,
one would do in consumer
Absolutely.
search.
Building from with, enterprise readiness,
Readiness,
security
security.
from the beginning is very important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Right. So, okay, so now let's move on. Like, you started the company, but at some point, hyper growth. I mean, all successful companies face that, and everyone has a different way of managing that. So, like, how did you manage your shift from like the stealth mode to a unicorn? And then you still have to maintain the culture and technical excellence while you're scaling. So, tell us more about your journey. I mean, we have heard about this journey from other
Yeah.
successful startup, but we always learn a new lesson when we talk to another successful startup.
Yeah, I think it's like, just to be clear, it's not like a. I think we constantly have to work, even with our growth recently, like we have to constantly work on it and keep refining the lessons. Um, but I think the one thing is that, for us it was not like, stealth to unicorn in like one step. It was like, yeah, very iterative. Some of the decisions we made early on sort of helped. One of the things here is like we really saw, we from the beginning we were thinking about how do we build like a category defining company. So for that we were thinking not just about, like from the beginning we had design, followed the proper like development process. You will have like design documents, not cutting corners or doing throwaway work, right? Thinking about, like, testing, right? Um, the other part here was also around stuff like not doing virality, or like, we were actually building, and we wanted the product to speak on its own. So those were like some of the things we avoided building, like, trying to boost the growth early. On the people side, I think the other side also was like we had aggressive goals and did aggressive performance management, but we were always like sort of, building for the long term, in the sense we didn't expect people to work weekends. So the, sustainability was very important. People actually, started their families while in the early days of Glean, and were
Yeah,
able to manage both.
that is so
So
refreshing to hear, right?
so that's actually one of the things that was important for us from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think what you said earlier, building for the long term, not writing throwaway code, doing proper testing, being rigorous, like this is, it's so amazing to hear that you can do all of that and still build such an amazing company. So I think sometimes we kind of, when we are in the starting mode, we sometimes forget that. But like, I would encourage everyone to kind of pay attention to that, because if you're building a successful startup, it's the long game, right? It's not a short game, right? And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
this is very important for every founder, right? So anyway, so I was itching to get to this topic. I'm assuming everyone here is also. When are you going to talk about agents, right? Okay, like okay, so let's talk about a bit of agents. So again, agents are everywhere. We are all talking about agents. We just had a panel before, but again, I think each of us might have a different definition of what an agent is. So maybe I'll begin with that. Like I'm hearing from someone like you, like what do you think is an agent? Or maybe there are different kinds of agents. So how do you think about agents in general, more from a definitional perspective?
Yeah, I was just last weekend I was having a very long philosophical debate with a friend of mine, who kept asking me, probing me on this agent's definition. Um, Yeah, I think, like I just have like a pretty simple, agent is like an AI application that can, autonomously reason and take action to solve a business goal, end-to-end business goal. So that's what I would call an
Yeah, no,
agent.
I think that's a very nice definition. I think there's a lot of complexity one could put on that, but like I think about it the same way, right? Like, so that's a very simple way of defining agent. Now, of course, there could be different gradations and all of that stuff, but yeah, I like that definition. And so now coming to agents, like we all know we are in the early days. I mean, this whole thing started like we saw XD stock, agents still need crutches and MCP and also, and this is all fairly new, so very early days. But like, in your opinion, like what do you think are what is working and what's not working today
Yeah.
as with agents?
I think what's working from my from what I see. Like, of course, coding agents are working really
Yes,
well.
yes.
We use it significantly at Glean, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really provided boost in our productivity.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing that we are seeing when it comes to enterprise agents is, first we have an agentic platform on Glean,
Mm-hmm.
and people are able to use the cases, like, there've been over like 50 million like agent runs in production
Mm-hmm.
using Glean agents. Um, and the cases that sort of resonate are ones where the agent is able to operate on universal knowledge.
Hmm.
So it's not just very niche department use cases, but where it can actually look across multiple sources of knowledge and come up with a complete picture, right? Those are also the ones that provide
Right.
value. Second thing is, it is able to actually take actions and close the loop.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to these actions, well defined like APIs, like what doesn't work is sort of like on the open web, right? Like when you're trying to do like browser use,
Right.
or when it's a very unconstrained
Yep.
problem, the it's easy to demo, but then the long tail in production is really hard.
Yep.
And then the third part, which is really important and which scares me a lot, is the whole guardrails and governance
Hmm.
around agents running.
Hmm.
It has to be working on data which is actually blessed for AI to use, and you need to have the right guardrails, because it's very easy to create like prompt injection,
Yep.
exfiltration
Yep.
attacks,
Yep. Yep.
based on any data.
Yep.
So you having a really solid platform that has those guardrails in, um, and the other part here is sort of another part here is like, how easy do we make it? Like, does the end user think about agents, or are they just doing their job? If it is available where they work and is sort of like invisibly occurring in the background, and helping them with their business processes,
Yep.
those use cases are much more successful than like launching an agent and say, hey, you go to this place and
Yep.
run this
Yep. Yep.
agent to get
Yeah.
value.
Yeah. Yeah. So the UI has to be invisible almost, meet the user where they are,
Yeah.
but then you have to have the agents work in a responsible way, like not leak information.
Yeah.
Things like contextual integrity, right? Like even that becomes very important. And then obviously hallucinations and all of that stuff,
Yes.
right? So yeah, and
Right. And there's lots to go. Like, we still need to get better at multi-step reasoning, tool
multi-step reasoning.
calling.
Yes,
There's a
yes, yeah,
lot of
yeah, yeah.
work needed to get more and more complex business processes,
Correct.
done using
Yeah.
agents.
And I'm also assuming for in many of these contexts, the cost is also very important. Like you can,
Yeah.
if you use a very expensive reasoning model, then I mean the number of tool calls, all of that stuff also adds up, right? Like
Yeah, cost is very important.
yeah,
The token cost,
the
of
token
course,
cost, yes,
but there's also infrastructure cost, because a
yes,
lot of these agents are speculative. Like,
right.
if you look at deep research,
Hmm.
it reads a lots of information
Yep,
from all over the enterprise and web,
yep,
and then it synthesizes the ones which are
yep,
important. But then if you think about all the load that's there on those
yes,
systems, that's also a big thing to
big
think
things, yeah, yeah,
factor in.
yeah, yeah. So all, I mean, very interesting problems to solve, and I'm assuming there will be a lot of startups that will be born in the next 5 years solving some of these problems as we move along. Still very early days. Uh, so let's imagine 2 years ago we solve all these problems, and as someone was saying, everyone has their own agent, almost like a digital assistant doing all their work. I mean, again, since I'm at LinkedIn, I think about it a lot. Like, how would the labor market evolve? Like, in your opinion? And again, we are just speculating here. No one knows what's going to happen. But let's say in that world, how do we even start thinking of the labor market at large.
Yeah, I mean, like, disclaimer, this is my random speculation. So,
Of course.
that's, I
Since
mean,
we are coming to the end of the talk, I mean,
yeah,
let's have some speculation and fun, right? Like so, and
yeah,
again, for all of you, like we might have some time for questions. I want to, so please keep your questions ready if you have some, but like we will get to you as well.
yeah. I think, I mean, like, there's all this talk of will jobs go away and so on. I feel that it is just going to create more work. In fact, there was Karpati's recent post about what happened in radiology.
Mm-hmm.
The demand for radiologists is still much higher,
Right.
right? So I think that's an optimistic view that we are going to up level our work. When I think about my job and coding, there's so much of boilerplate and stuff that we need to deal with, and this can be an option for, like, as we move closer and closer to natural
Mm-hmm.
language,
Mm-hmm.
right? Have more functional specifications, be able to like build systems from with more like modular and well-defined
Yeah. Yeah.
contracts. But there's still a lot to be built still. Also think about some things like also think about things like how we do work. Like we have these syncs where we talk about action items or
Mm-hmm.
status.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of these kinds of activities which can just go away, be
Yep.
done async, right? And we can focus more on like higher level decision making.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's, I have an optimistic view of
Yeah. Yeah.
what is going to be 2 years from now. A lot of the boilerplate, a lot of the repetitive tasks can be outsourced to the AI
Yeah.
agent with the human sort of jumping in when needed.
So seems like at a high level, you're saying we can do macro delegation to AI by doing micro steering.
Yes,
Micro
yes.
steering. Humans are going to do micro steering, do macro delegation,
Yep. That's
which
a good way to
means
put it.
we as humans have to upskill ourselves, change the way we work as well, right? And so that might also become an important consideration as we move along. So, any thoughts on that, or
Yeah, I think
especially those who are just getting into the workforce, like how do they train themselves or
yeah.
prepare themselves for the new world?
I think a lot of it is like I think the specialist versus generalist, right?
Hmm.
We would expect people to be a lot more generalists, being able to even now, when you think of work that a team does, like earlier you used to have infrastructure, front end, quality, and those teams are still there, but I think the lines are extremely blurred.
Hmm. Hmm.
And also similarly, like design, product design,
Hmm.
and there are specialists, but you're not going to, if you need a prototype, you're not, and you're bottlenecked on like time from a designer,
Hmm.
you can now unblock yourself using things like Lovable, right?
Right.
So I think that trend is going to be much more where you will be able to take on more stuff end to
Hmm.
end, and just have a broader set of skills using the tools, AI
Right. Right.
tools.
Right. Yeah, so I think, again, I can continue this conversation for hours. I'll just ask one last question, which I ask everyone, and then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. We can take a few more questions. So one question which I struggle with is like, how do we keep up with this changing world? Like, I mean, things are changing so quickly, and everyone has their own way of keeping up with things. So, like, what's your secret sauce? How do you keep up with the things that are when things are changing so quickly? Like, are you reading LinkedIn posts or X? Like, what are you doing?
I'm a big podcast, follower. So I have a few, among other things, I have some AI podcasts that I listen to. And the nice thing is it sort of kills time during my morning workout. So that's like there's latent space, there's this day in AI, like a few different podcasts, as well
Okay.
as like, industry
Yeah.
things. And of course, X, one of our ex-Gleanies is DD, who has a big Twitter following and who keeps resharing a lot of interesting articles. So I use X, and internally we have a reading group for going through interesting
Interesting
papers that are
papers. Okay,
coming.
yeah, yeah.
So
Makes sense. Yeah.
that's sort of the
What's your
gamut.
favorite podcast, if you don't mind sharing with the audience?
My favorite podcast for AI,
Yes,
I like Latent Space.
latent space. Okay. Uh, for those of you who have not, I mean, I love that too. So, I mean, highly recommended. Okay, so I think I have a lot more questions, but since we have 4 minutes, I will open up to anyone in the audience who may have a question. If not, I will continue with my questions. But let me know. Is there okay?
Thank you so much. Very interesting. Deepak, is it okay if I ask a question related to LinkedIn?
For me,
Yeah.
okay, I can help answer if it is applicable. Yeah, why don't you
Yeah,
go ahead?
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I am founder of TeamLift. We train non-technical employees on how to use AI, including building agents. A lot of our users are recruiters, and they really complain about all the API restrictions around LinkedIn. Do you have, I don't know, some speculation information on how the agents within LinkedIn are
Okay, I
developing?
think maybe I can answer that question offline. This is
Okay.
more about Wish, not about me, but we can take that offline. I appreciate the question and I have an answer, but like
Okay.
I'll connect with you offline.
Thank you.
Uh, any question? Yes.
Hey, thanks for the chat. So I'm a founder of a startup called ProductNow.ai. A lot of the integrations and connectors are very expensive for us to build a system of context. I didn't catch your conference yesterday in Glean, but what can we look forward to in terms of getting it through APIs? Because many of our design partners are using Glean.
Yeah, so great question. Happy to talk about it. We see ourselves not only as a product but a platform. So a platform where you can get all the enterprise context available via APIs. In fact, we have an MCP server. So if anyone who's running Glean, you can integrate with it using the MCP server, as well as we have integrations with the popular agentic frameworks like ADK, OpenAI's agent framework, and so on.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Could you repeat what that recommended podcast was? I didn't find it.
It's called Latent Space.
Latent space, yeah. Okay, any other? There's one question. Maybe the last one, and then we are running out of time.
My name is Richard. So this year, customer experience became huge in terms of agents. The other vertical that became very successful was coding agents. Like there's no question that coding agents are there to stay. Like if you had to look at the next 3 to 6 months, what kind of verticals do you think agents are going to start conquering?
I can talk about one. If you look at the world, I believe there are 50 billion emails that are written every day. Almost 50 million meetings that happen every day. More than 50 million PowerPoints are created every day. So this seems to be the predominant work every knowledge worker does every single day. And I think there will definitely be some agentic flows that would make all of our lives easier when it comes to communicating, creating, collaborating within the enterprise, right? And that would help us focus more on the strategic stuff that we all like doing. So that seems to be very obvious to me. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of other things that can happen.
Yeah, no, I think definitely, every person having their own EA,
Yeah.
and that's one thing. The other thing is, lots of traction we are seeing in people building agents for sales departments and so on.
Marketing. So again, thank you, Vish. It was such a pleasure talking to you. We can continue this for a long time, but it was so much fun. And thanks for sharing all those insights. And also thanks for taking all the audience questions. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah.